आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्म उपनिषदम् माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. We have been studying this Upanishad, Chāndogya Upanishad, from the 6th chapter onwards, or presently we are in the 6th chapter. It is from Samaveda. In this 6th chapter, Paramarashibhyo, Namah Paramarashibhyah. Chāndogya Upanishad is from the Samaveda. We took a look at some selected mantras from chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5. Presently, we are in the 6th chapter, and the whole Chāndogya Upanishad has 8 chapters. We are going to see a lot of selected mantras from chapter 7 and 8 also. In chapter 6, we have been taking a quick look at every section. This chapter 6, Shashtaha Adhyayaha, is a dialogue between a father, Uddalaka, who is the Guru, and a son, Shvetaketu, who is the disciple. And we have come a long way. This chapter 6 has 16 sections, khandas. And in this session, on this date, Friday, October 7, 2022, we are going to see the 15th khanda. And what is special about this chapter is the well-known Mahavakya Tatvamasi appears 9 times in this chapter, starting with the 8th section all the way till the 16th section. Every section ends with the mantra Saya Esha Anima Aitadatmamidam Sarvam Tat Satyam Tattvamasi, and so on. You are that. There is a certain subtle truth pervading this entire universe, including you and me, and that single truth alone is actually real, that alone exists, and you are that. Tattvamasi means you are that. And because Shvetaketu on one hand fully appreciates, on the other has yet another lurking doubt, the Guru Uddalaka goes into the topic once more with yet another illustration and then conveys the same message, TAT-TVAM-ASI. In this class, we shall see the 8th occurrence of Tattvamasi, 15th khanda. And in the next class, the 16th khanda, we will see the 9th and last occurrence of Tattvamasi. What made us, or what made Uddalaka in the first place, to go into an 8th repetition of Tattvamasi is in the last section, which was a very beautiful portion, where there was the punchline, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Somebody was blindfolded and kidnapped by thieves. He was from a country called Gandhara, but he was taken away very far and they left him in some forest-like place, and there they took all his possessions, valuables, and ran away. When the robbers went away, this man, whose hands also were tied behind him, who was blindfolded, screamed for help. Thank God his mouth was not gagged. He screamed, "Help me, help me." Then somebody comes and removes his blindfold and also shows him the direction to Gandhara Desha, which is his country. That is a simple example, but the Chāndogya Upanishad takes that simple example and says, though this illustration may be a very simple affair, what we are trying to say is, in spiritual matters, one who has a competent teacher can alone reach the highest truth. Therefore, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Yasya Acharya asti sa eva Veda, sa eva Veditum Shaknoti, Anye Veditum na Shaknuvanti. Ityartha. But in that 14th section at the end, as Shankaracharya puts in, the student Shvetaketu gets a doubt. And that doubt is, when someone does not get an Acharya and does not get that liberating vision, what is the nature of that person dying, at the time of dying? And when somebody else gets an Acharya and gets the teaching, realizes the supreme truth, how exactly does the second person die? The process. Therefore, in this section, all that we have is simply two mantras followed by the Sayayesha Anima Aitadatmemidam Sarvam, the common mantra in all these 9 sections. What is new is two mantras, and the two mantras describe somebody who is dying. And in the Bhashya, Sri Shankaracharya uses two words to apply both these mantras to two kinds of people. One is a mumurshu, the second is a mumukshu. Mumurshu means somebody who is about to die, an ordinary lay person, a worldly person, lady or man. Mumukshu is one in a million, someone who has got all the wisdom and is fully poised for realization. Mumukshu is yaha moksham ichchati. Mumurshu in Sanskrit is, we can't say yaha maranam ichchati, nobody wants to die in this world. But mumurshu grammatically is what they call a sannanta, a desiderative. What it actually means is marana asannaha, about to die. Jidnasu is one who wants to know. Bubhukshu is a hungry person who wants to eat. Bubhutsu is one who wants to know. Buddh bodhati dhatu. Chikirshu is kartumichati iti chikirshu. There is a whole category. In that category of words, which are in English grammar called desideratives, sannanta, iccharthaka padaha, padani. So you have mumurshu, about to die. That means a highly sick person. Doctors have written off. It's just a matter of a few hours or a few minutes even. Mumukshu, he is also dying in this context, but who is contemplating on the undivided Shuddha Atma. So we will see that the description pretty much is the same, but there is a difference. If it is applicable to Mumurshu, an ordinary worldly person dying, the application is one kind. If it is in the case of Mumukshu, someone who has received instruction and who, being very fit and eligible, Adhikari Purusha, Uttamadhikari is actually in a different state of consciousness, what will happen to him? Therefore, it's all about how the last few minutes. Today, you see, in modern science, modern physics, a lot of research has been done and more is going on to find out the first few nanoseconds or picoseconds when the universe occurred or universe opened up. They have a theory of creation in science too. So it is of interest to know how it all began and then became this vast universe. Physics has its own theories. Now, in the Vedanta, there are theories about how the universe was created, but equally, there are theories of how one dies. Last few hours, last few minutes, last few seconds, and maybe last few microseconds, nanoseconds, picoseconds, whatever. Those words are not given, but please imagine it is something like that. What are the last moments of a layperson? How would it be different for an enlightened person? Let's get going with the 3 or 4 slides that we have made for this session also. So the first slide, which we call the title slide, says it introduces the topic. Most of you have received these slides, those who are in the mailing list. Others, of course, can see right away now as it appears upon the screen. First of all, it is mentioned here in the title slide. This is the eighth time that Tatvamasi is being instructed. But what is the gist of this eighth occurrence or this section 15 where Tatvamasi appears for the 18th side? The outward setting is how one merges with truth. The highest truth, Brahma, is called here Para Devata. So Parasyam Devatayam Kena Prakarena Jivaha Layam Gachati is the topic. So the slide shows to you how one merges with truth during death. And from the second mantra of this, it could be in fact the first mantra also. Both the mantras have this expression. Pranaha Tejasi, Tejaha Parasyam Devatayam. Here I would take a quick departure before we go to the next slide. This slide may be closed, and if I am allowed to share screen, as the present slide is closed, I will share, which occurred to me 2 minutes before I set up this for today's session. So, this is a quote. This is a quote that has come this time in our e-newsletter, AUPA. Ram Das was a very saintly figure. He started off as a professor in Harvard University, but in the 1960s, his story is very well known. He came down to India, met Neem Karoli Baba, and his life was transformed. He was Richard Alpert, Professor Alpert, and he went back to the United States with the name Ram Das. And the rest of his life, nearly 50 years, he very devotedly spread Indian wisdom of Vedanta in his own beautiful way. One of his books, Be Here Now, is an all-time bestseller. I trust the slide is visible, and with the picture of Ram Das, the title is Ram Das, one of his messages is live on two planes at the same time. And this class topic has a good bearing on this. On one hand, you and I have this personality. We have the body, we have the sense organs, we have the organs of action, we have a thinking mind, a thinking intellect, we have pranas, which are keeping the body running, and ultimately we have the pure self. Now, the pure self is the higher plane, and the personality made of the physical body, senses, organs of action, mind, pranas, etc., is the lower plane. I'll quickly read this. Most of you are receiving the e-newsletter. We just sent it out 2 days back. Ramdas, in his typical language, says, "My challenge to you, as fellow pilgrims on the journey, is to cultivate the stability of living on two planes of consciousness simultaneously." He rightly calls it my challenge to you. Can you live on two planes of consciousness simultaneously? What are those two planes? He quotes Christ. After all, he was working in USA mostly, and that's a country with majority following Christianity. So he says, as Christ said, in the world, but not of the world. In the world, but not of the world. You and I need to be operating through the personality, but we must know, if we have studied Vedanta properly, we must know we are not this personality. To be fully passionately involved in life, Ramdas puts it in a language that especially Westerners would like. Because Westerners by nature are passionate about life. And Easterners, because of their very ancient history, are quite a bit inward turned. For us, spirituality means withdraw. Withdraw the senses, withdraw the mind, and so on, right? So let's go back to Ramdas language. Ramdas language, where he says, be fully passionately involved in life, and then adds, also be totally equanimous and centered. So, how can you watch a football match with great interest? Oh, which side made the goal and all that, and get excited? And how can you at the same time remember that nothing is happening anywhere at any time? That is the Vedanta. But Ramdas, who grasped and imbibed this Vedanta so well, says, my challenge to you is to be fully passionately involved in life and also be totally equanimous and centered. This is not either or, last sentence of this passage. It's both, it's a both slash and. You have to be both a personality and the pure self, beyond the personality. You have to be in space and time and also beyond space and time. Let me close this slide and we go back. Now we take up the mantras. In the second slide, we have the first mantra of the 15th khanda of chapter 6. Here, Uddalaka, of course, says, this is the first slide, we need to go to the second slide. Uddalaka says to Shvetaketu, Purusham Saumya Uta Upatapinam Natayah Pari Upasate. A man, it could be lady also, we have said 100 times, Upanishads don't care about your gender. Vedanta applies both to women and men. Vedanta can be studied, lived by both women and men. But olden days language. Purusham Upatapinam, someone who is having high fever, maybe old age too. He's about to die. Natayaha, Sambandhinaha, all relatives are around. They take care of him, but they also know that the last moments have come. So they ask, first the son asks, Janasi Mam, Papa, do you recognize me? Then maybe a grandchild, a granddaughter asks, Grandpa, do you recognize me? Who am I? Nanyar, मैं कौन हूँ? That is the meaning. Jana Simam, Jana Simam. That's what happens. Once in Manipal, in Karnataka, a man was about to die. And people started coming and asking the same question. They asked, Uncle, do you know who has come? The next somebody came and said, for that other person, he is, grandfather. Grandpa, do you know? He was actually trying to remember God. But these people are asking all these questions. This is a real case. I also knew that gentleman. I had met him a few months before he died in Manipal itself. And he said, then he was in hospital. He got so angry. He with folded hands said, anybody comes, ask them to shut up and sit down. I am trying to remember Rama. Rama, 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 Rama. And people are coming. Do you know who has come? I have brought muruku for you. I have brought fruits for you. Now he wants to think about Rama. He doesn't want fruits. He doesn't want muruku. He doesn't want. So his sister told me. He got so angry with all these people who repeat the same questions. Who are relatives, they don't know how to conduct themselves, right? Janasi Mam, Janasi Mam. And then the mantra simply says, Tasya yavat na vakam manasi sampadyate. There is a process where a man dies. His indriyas, represented by the vak, speech, they stop functioning, but the mind is operating. He cannot speak, he cannot hear, he cannot see also, but the mind is operating. And then mind also merges in prana. Prana also merges in tejas tattva, the warmth in the body. The body is warm for some more time. Then comes a point, the warmth in the body also vanishes. Till this process gets going, this means he is up and active, though he may be very weak. Tavat janati. Till then, even if he is unable to speak up, he knows. This is my granddaughter asking, do you realize who has come? This is my son asking, he knows. The mantra means just that. Yavat vak manasi na sampadyate. Yavat manah prane na sampadyate. Yavat pranaha tejasi na sampadyate. Yavat tejaha parasyam devatayam na sampadyate. In simple way, till the gross aspects do not merge in the subtle, that also doesn't merge in the further subtle, etc. Till the expressions of life are very much present, then he knows. Tavat janati. And the very next mantra, let's take a look at the next section also, next mantra also. 6th chapter, 15th section, and the second mantra. Here, only one difference. Please see, the earlier mantra said, Tavat janati. And this mantra says, Atha na janati. Janati becomes na janati. And what does the mantra say? Atha yada asya vak manasi sampadyate. Earlier it was said, Yavat vak manasi na sampadyate. But now the situation is, speech has merged with the mind has merged with the prana has merged with the warmth in the body, tejas, the warmth in the body has merged in the pure self. The pure self cannot merge in anything. Sa kashta sa paragati. So tejaha parasyam devataya ata na janati. With this, the main two mantras are over. The last mantra, which we will see after a moment, talks about the Parasya Devatam, Parasyam Devatayam. Who is that Para Devata? That is the Brahma. In this sixth kanda, not sixth kanda, sixth adhyaya of chapter of Chāndogya Upanishad, the word used is not Brahma, but Sat. Uddalaka begins his teachings, Sadeva Soumya Idamagra Asit, Ekameva Advitiyam, Sat. So, commentators and Tippanakars, all of them use the appropriate word. How a dying soul merges with Sat, and whether he is worldly or enlightened, the phenomenal side of the matter is there is a merging. Then where is the difference? Of course, Adi Shankara says that one who has received the teachings of the Acharya, one who received it being fully equipped with Viveka, Vairagya, other qualities, other qualifications. In his case also, the dying process is same, but thanks to the abidance in the truth, he is not born again. The file is closed. Therefore, in Sanatana Dharma, we always equate moksha to be the cessation of punarjanma. One who has not received moksha comes back. Now, we have studied a lot of Vedanta texts in these classes. I must hasten to add, this whole business of the unenlightened and the enlightened, somebody being reborn and somebody else being not reborn, this is all what we call adhyaropa. This is a deliberate superimposition for madhyama adhikaris, not uttama adhikaris. Madhyama adhikaris, that means students of Vedanta who are of average ability, average qualification, etc. It is said, he will be reborn, she will not be reborn. He went through the Kundalini up and from Sushumna, then from the Brahmarandra, the soul went to some place. Somebody else, went like a flame. Somebody else went like something else. Lot of theories are given. It is all adhyaropa. Actually, the truth is, for those who have the ability to see, there is no going, no coming. Even this birth, this present state of our being, this body, etc., is part of avidya. It is part of erroneous perception. And when the error ends, one doesn't have to wait till the so-called clinical death. When error in seeing, asamyak darshana, ends, at that moment itself, the story is over. In fact, we would dare say, time itself gets wrapped up. It is the ending of time itself, rather than talking of at the time of dying, what happens? Suppose a man got enlightened at the age of 60 and he finally went to clinical death at the age of 70. So 10 years he was moving around. The Madhyamadhikaris are very interested in these stories. In fact, they don't like Jivan Mukti idea. They don't like instant Mukti idea. Somebody is enjoying a horror show, horror movie. You say, it's so frightening, shall I close it? They say, no, please. And if you tell them this is only a movie, it's not real. There is no Dracula actually. There is no demon, there is no ghost, there is no Pishacha. We'll close it. The person who is attached to seeing the horror movie, what will he say? No, please don't stop. It's most exciting now. Like that, those who are weak in Viveka and Vairagya, those who have not done a proper study of the Vedanta, those in the light of the 14th Khanda did not get a competent Acharya, they will be hanging on to various concepts. This is the cause, that is the effect. They will be holding on to ideas of how waking is the cause, dream is the effect. how impressions in the waking cause dream state. And we go from waking to dream and deep sleep, then we come back. These are all favorite ideas of Madhyama Adhikari. As one is clearer thanks to Viveka, and not only clearer, but thanks to Vairagya, one is able to rise high. Some people get a fairly good understanding, but they don't have enough Vairagya. So, with all wonderful understanding, they will again close the Vedanta book. I think for today this is enough. Isn't there some nice sweet in the fridge? Let's go and have a bite. They'll completely say, this Vedanta is enough. Now it is time for Mysore Pak. They will go there. Therefore, the Shastras say you need to have both Viveka and Vairagya. Those who spend years and years in ashrams also sometimes do not have real Vairagya. They then deviate. Anyway, at this time, let me close this slide and let me go to a couple of selected lines from Shankara's commentary. In the 14th Khanda itself, Shankaracharya writes the link to the next section which we took up this in this session. Acharyavan Vidwan Yena Kramena Sat Sampadhyate Tam Kramam Drashtantena Bhuya Evama Bhagavan Vijnapayatu iti. This Shvetaketu just says, Revered Sir, may please teach me once more. Why once more? We have said everything, one may say. Shankaracharya says, those by then the father had said 7 times. Still, there was another lurking doubt. Someone who had the highest understanding, in what way does he merge with the Sat? So, in what we saw in this class, the description is given. This was actually taken up in the 8th Khanda also. But there, the emphasis was different. Here, it is to clearly say that the Mumurshu and layperson comes back. Of course, it is in the Adhyaropa frame of reference, and the Mumukshu does not come back. If you have Samyak Darshana, no one ever is bound, no one ever is free. In Mandukya Karikas, such insights are given. Na bandhaha, na mokshaha, na mumukshuhu, ityesha paramartata. There is a Karika. Na nirodha, na chotpattihi, na bandhaha, na vai muktihi, ityesha paramartata. The ultimate truth is nobody is bound, nobody is liberated. Not easy for any of us to understand. But if we properly study Vedanta, one thing that Vedanta does to you, to put it in simple words, is you will increasingly see the mischief of thought. How thought creates high and low. How thought defines success and failure. How thought would make somebody feel worthy and somebody is looked at as unworthy. Vedanta says all that is false. Everyone is Brahma. This is Vedanta's language. You are as divine as any saint. Ramana Maharshi will say to you, please do not think I am divine and you are worldly. You are as divine as I am. Huh? How can I be as divine as you are, Maharshi? Swami, I am a very prapanchika person. You are divine. Maharshi would say, that is what your thinking is with loud noise saying. You are thinking. J. Krishnamurti extensively talked about thought and its interference in right perception. If thought interferes, you cannot even see a rose as it is. You cannot see a tree as it is. You cannot even see your grandson as he is. Of course, you cannot see your spouse as he or she is. Krishnamurti uses that language. He doesn't bring the word Brahma, Avidya, Dhyaropa, Jnana. No such word is brought. He only asks, can you pay attention to thought? What thought does? Anyway, now Shankaracharya in his commentary uses the word Mumurshu. While commenting on the first mantra, he says, Bandavaha Jnatayaha Mumurshum Prachanti Janasi Mam Tava Pitaram Janasi Mam Tava Putram Janasi Mam. I am your father, do you recognize me? I am your son, do you recognize me? I am your brother, do you recognize me? Relatives come and ask him. The poor man is trying to remember Rama. But this relative with the Musumbi and apple and all that, already there is the 5 kgs are already there in the room. They bring one more box, one more packet and say, Mama, Solungu, nan yaru, recognize panna mudiyuma. I'm speaking in Tamil Nadu this evening. So some Tamil I'm trying to say. Nan yaru theriyuma, janasi ma. And Shankaracharya says, Mumurshum prachantaha. And then rest of it, of course, he would know, oh yeah, this is my son who has come to see me, who is preventing me from remembering Lord Rama now. Right? And then Shankaracharya makes an interesting comment here. This is worth saying. He says, okay, within the Adhyaropa, Avidwan, in the case of an ignorant person, worldly person, the body becomes cold, and for a while it is as though the Jivatma has merged in the Paradevata. But Avidwan tu Sataha Utthaya, just wait a little. The worldly Jiva rises again for rebirth, for Punarjanma. Prag Bhavitam, Vyagradi Bhavam, he could be born as a tiger. He could be born as a Deva. He could be born as a Manushya. And then, what was of special interest to Shvetaketu is someone who got an Acharya, got the clearest understanding, and doing Nididhyasana. What happens to her? Vidwantu Acharya Upadeshataha, Shastra Acharya, I'm reading from Shankara Bhashya. Shastra Acharya Upadesha Janita Jnana Deepa Prakashitam Sad Brahma Atmanam Pravishya. The enlightened one who has, to use Krishnamurti's language, put thought in its right place. Thought, which is the result of memory, cannot interfere. So, Sad Brahma Atmanam Pravishya Na Avartate Iti Esha Sat Sampatti Kramaha. From the phenomenal angle of view, the person who received the instruction and grasped it in all clarity also goes through the same process. But the inner story is Vidwan, Shastra Acharya Upadesha Janita Jnanadeepa Prakashitam. The Sad Brahma is illumined, is made so evident to her by Shastra Upadesha, by Acharya Upadesha. It's as though a certain lamp was lit. Deepita Jnana Prakashitam or Janita Jnana Deepa Prakashitam. This is one interesting comment. And then one last point. He says, there are some people. He says a Purvapakshi is brought in, an imagined opponent. Anyetu Murdhanyaya Nadya Utkramya Adityadi Dwarena Sad Gachanti Tyahu. They're so fond of processes and phenomenal, occurrences. They are so attached to space and time and, cause and effect. So even about an illumined soul, they would say, in his case, I'll tell you how he goes. There is a certain nadi, referring to Sushumna nadi, which goes up to Brahmarandra. From there, his soul moves maybe with the slight shaking. They like to have that imagination. Aditya Adidwara, and it goes to Aditya Loka first, then finally it goes to Brahma. Shankaracharya says, Tad Asat. In the case of someone who has Samyak Darshana, just drop all this talk of the soul going this way, that way, etc. Desha, Kala, Nimitta, Phala, Abhisandanena, Gamana Darshana. Gamana, going, a soul goes here, soul goes there, upward, downward, all that talk is valid when space is real, Desha. When time is real, Kala. Nimitta is real, causation. Phala is real, karma and karma phala. But in the Samyak Darshana, all of these are invalidated. Nahi sadatma ekatva darshana satyabhisandasya deshakala nimitta phala adi anrita abhisandihi upapadyate virodhat. He says to students of Vedanta, if you accept some theory with regard to an enlightened person, then you have not understood what is enlightenment. Enlightenment means the wrapping up of space, time, and causation. Therefore, there is a virodha. So people ask, what do you mean? Avidya kama karmanam cha gamana nimittanam sadvidnana huta ashana hutashana viplushtatvat. This right understanding is like a hutashana. Hutashana means fire. When the fire of right understanding is lit up, viplushta, it burns away ignorance, desire, action, result of action. And therefore, in that scenario, in that perspective, in that paradigm, gamana anupapatti. There is no gamana, there is no agamana. And he quotes the Mundaka mantra. Paryapta kamasya kritatmanaha tu ihaiva sarve praviliyanti kamaha. Ityadi atharvane nadi samudra drishtanta shrutescha. When a river merges in the ocean, it simply loses its identity. So he gives a strong argument here, and you need not see the last slide now. This section also concludes Saya Esha Anima Aitadatmamidagam Sarvam Tat Satyagam Sa Atma Tatvamasi Shweta Ketu. And now one last time our Shweta Ketu again says, Bhuya eva mam Bhagavan Vijnapaya. Tell me one more time. And for that also, the reason is given. Shankaracharya writes in the commentary on this section itself. Avidwan avartate, vidwan na avartate. One who is still in ignorance comes back to next life. One who has right seeing does not come back to next life. Why is it so? Why this? Because from a third party point of view, dying is the same process. So when Ramana Maharshi, let's say, passed away, so to say, this also slowly the pulse stopped, breathing stopped, body became cold, right? So somebody may say process is same. So the last section, Kanda, Shodasha Kanda, 16th section, gives another illustration and says, though from a distance, the foolish person and the wise person seem to have died in the same way, those who know what it is to be enlightened know that it's a totally different scenario in the case of Tata Somyeti Hovacha. In this way, the 15th Kanda also concludes. Om Namah Paramarashibhyo, Namah Paramarashibhyaha. Okay. Let me take a look at the chat box. So we have, okay, quite a few people have typed something. Malati Janakiram, Namaskara, Gita Nayar, Pranama, and then, yes, chat disconnected. Please wait while we reconnect to you. Successfully connected, yeah. Dakshuji for a while could not type, but now she's able. So mostly it is greetings, Hari Om, Namaskar, Pranam, and so on. Yes. Okay, yes, some newcomers also. Welcome, Deepa. And yes. Gargi has a question. At a certain level, karma theory is fact, or it is all adhyaropa. Entire theory of karma, lock, stock, and barrel, is within adhyaropa. Yeah. So the positing or proposing, placing before you the idea there is a jiva and he does punya karma, then punya phala, papa karma and papa phala. All that is adhyaropa only. In apavada, all of them are dismantled. And why do we call it adhyaropa, not adhyasa? Adhyasa is error on our part. We are Vedanta students. And earlier, before even we studied Vedanta, we had adhyasa. We thought we are this body. We stood before the mirror and repeatedly ensured that we looked better. And when somebody praised us, we felt on top of the world. Before even we learnt even ABC of Vedanta. That's all adhyasa. Dehe Atma Buddhi. Vyaktitva. Deha stands for personality. When I went to school, and when we got a prize for speaking, singing, dancing, painting, we went up the stage, took the prize. Maybe it was a nice pen or two pencils. Doesn't matter. Holding those two pencils, when we are coming down the stage, we felt on top of the world. That's adhyasa. Adhyasa doesn't require Shastra Dhyana. Then somewhere, some of us at the age of 23, some of us at the age of 35, somewhere we studied Shastra. And Shastra says, look, you are actually a combination of Jada and Chetana. So two ideas were introduced, inert and sentient. And really you are pure sentience only. But today you have a Tadatmya, one more Adhyaropa. So the Shastra gives us a frame of work, brings in many concepts, and that is where, coming directly to your question now, the Shastra says, look, in your ignorance, not only in this life, in previous lives also, you did a lot of papa karma. You hurt people, you deceived, you told a lie, or you hurt yourself by sleeping poorly, by eating too much, etc. So punya karma, papa karma are all not true. They are adhyaropa. If you go to the level of Mandukya Karikas, as we said, na nirodha, na chotpatti, that is apavada. Na nirodha, there is nothing called mind control. Na chotpatti, first of all, there is nothing called mind at all. Manasam tu kim margane krute, naiva manasam, Maharshi Ramana's Upadesha Sara. Really, there is no mind at all. That is apavada. But in Adhyaropa, Maharshi also does Adhyaropa. Mind has two parts, idam vritti and aham vritti. Vrittayastvaham vrittimashritah vrittayo mano vidyaham manah. That is Adhyaropa. But manasam to kim iti margane krite naiva manasam. There is nothing called mind at all. That is apavada. So karma, karta, karmanaha, phalam, kartritva, buddhihi, all this we did not know before we studied Vedanta. But we now have all that. And what happens is, when students and teachers have all these words, all these terminologies, all these concepts in their hands, discussion becomes easier. Then the Adhyaropa can be facilitated. To facilitate to facilitate apavada, negation, you need to first have certain conceptual framework. You bring the concepts in, and a beautiful discussion can take place between fellow students or teachers and students, and the mind rises and rises. At the right point, all the concepts are just left behind. So conceptual knowledge is a temporary arrangement to be eventually dismissed, and concept-free Atmanishta then takes place. I guess that is the last question. So with this, we perhaps can conclude. Everything is done. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Hari.